When have we ever been more excited to be sitting on 0 points after match day 2? Is there a precedent for this?
Is it exciting or is it? I was relieved.
Yeah.
Like that's where I was. I mean, I was excited, but I also feel markedly different today than I did yesterday before the game. Or how
it is not nauseated.
I'm no longer nauseated. Yeah. And I do genuinely now feel excitement instead of dread, which is nice. I like to be there, right? So yeah. Rian, how about you?
Well, I think it is excitement. I mean, the concern is very real. Like when Vanessa spoke, there was just tears in my household. Like you do forget these women behind there sometimes in the story of everything, and they're people and they've given everything. Some of them have only just joined the team. You know, they have they're just playing for their country and the honor to do so. And to hear that raw emotion from Vanessa was really important. It was important to humanize them in that moment. And what a wonderful way to do it. They played so well in the second half. And I was really proud. And a lot of them are obviously friends and acquaintances or people that I've worked with. And I was so excited. And it's only a matter of time that fumes last. So I hope that this has also given them some breathing room so that they can take a breath and get some sleep, because it, I'm sure, has been a very, very tough time.
Yeah, I just wanted to stay on Vanessa for a bit, because I think she has been, underrated, not in her performances, but in the way that she seems to galvanize the group, not only through what's happening now with this god-awful off-the-field distraction and scandal, and how their own integrity and character are being called into question, or is being called into question. And she does not mince words. And I adore that about her. She gets to the crux of the matter in both languages masterfully. And she got through it crying in a way that I never would have. I have a weird mouth thing that happens when I start to cry. She was able to just soldier through and be so eloquent and so pointed in her comments. And the victory was exactly what that group needed. But it was also, I think, so desperately needed in Canada, with all the people who have remained solely focused on their support for these players. But like in her words, I think she communicated exactly what they were feeling as a group, that we are not cheaters. Those were not our decisions, you know? So I just thought we needed to absolutely underline what she did there. And I was emotional as well. I got to watch it with Dee. I was so happy about that. Like, if I wasn't going to be on the call, like, I got to be at Peach's Sports Bar in Toronto, which is a kick-ass venue, surrounded by the vibe and the energy of all the desperately needed positivity that this story has been sorely lacking. And the positivity is found by way of the players.
Yeah, we gave you guys a shout out. I know you couldn't hear us because it sounded like it was loud where you were.
And we got Dee on a chair she gave a talk at like halftime.
You did? No.
Yeah. And everyone's like, get her a chair. I'm like, yeah, she needs a chair. So I slid her my chair, and then she was just up there. I'm just like, Dee, you know, like it's like standing on the shoulder of giants. It was like Diana Matheson, our fearless leader. And I love the fact that Signa called out Dee. Olivier Tremblay, who was doing the Rad Can broadcast in French, gave a shout out to Dee. So I think it's important as well. Like, I think we're linked, obviously, as past players, but like that thread is continuous, and it's marked and it's mentioned, I think, is also important, because this has been, maybe you guys can both speak to this, like weighing heavily on me. And I'm pretty far removed from this program, but like you never feel, I think, completely out of that circle. But it's been a month. No, it's been what, like a week? It's felt like an effing month.
It's been a week. Yeah, I mean, I think that, I mean, I wonder, I haven't been paying as much attention to kind of like what the international media has been saying. And I don't know what is being said kind of over in Paris. I mean, I haven't noticed as people here commenting on the players as cheaters, right? Like I haven't, and maybe I just haven't read the right.
It's being said.
And it may be being said. I mean, that was never something that crossed my mind, right? I think that that there were some very, I mean, I'm pretty disgusted on about the actions of the coaching staff. But yeah, I think you're right, Amy, with when it comes to Vanessa Gilles. I think her leadership is sometimes goes not unnoticed, but underrated in how she brings the group together. We've seen it a couple times now. I saw her grab everybody after that first goal in New Zealand, bring everybody together, get them to refocus. And there's just that great photo that somebody got of her on her knees, just like you could just yelling. It's actually really cool because it's like 2 stages of relief in one, because Julia Grosso's in the background, just like, oh, thank God. Vanessa Gilles just letting it out in pure like rage.
It's visceral, right?
Totally visceral. And you could really, I mean, I have felt both of those things, right? And it was just a really good kind of visual representation of it. But,
there's another picture of Sinky doing something like that, and it's a bit of a passing of the torch moment. Like, this team this is the new incarnation. These young, it reminds me a little bit of 2015 to 2016 in terms of the team. Like, there was a lot of the older guard, and then 2016 this huge movement of the youth, and this is what we're seeing again. And what I'd like to just quickly say about Vanessa, which she is a top player. She plays for top teams in the world. She has impact, and she's a connector. But what she's said very publicly as well is she's part of the group that has really supported the work Diana's done with the new Canadian League that's coming, because she was one of those players that benefited from a second passport. If you look at Vanessa and you use only your stereotypical mind of like what an athlete should have, she ticks a lot of boxes, but not all of them. But she is the supreme player, and has shown that over and over again in how she marshals the back line, and how she has a huge soccer IQ, how she attacks a ball, how she scores big goals, but also clears them off the line. Her leadership skills, and it is incredible now what we look at when we talk about the players, how disappointed we are in what they're having to go through. Our hearts breaking for them. And we think, I was talking to Diana, if there's ever a time we need a league for the players, by the players, it's now to say, like, this is a new beginning. And Vanessa is a real example of that, of an athlete who we might have lost through our system because of what we have to do in Canada to try and capture our talent. Thank goodness we didn't lose her, and that she was able to ply her trade abroad, and then we could bring her back to represent Canada so fabulously. And Jessie Fleming, with that goal and her leadership as well. So very emotional moment.
Yeah.
Sorry, Claire, before we go to Jessie and shift gears, Vanessa, I heard Evelyn Vienne interviewed on Radcan by Christine Roger, who's done great work on the ground, by the way, in France, connecting with those players in both languages. But Ev gave her a little bit of a dig. She's like, is that the first goal that she scored with her foot? And it might be. And she also said, she kind of just threw it in at the end. She's like, also like tons of time. And she decided to play it first time with her non-dominant foot.
Yeah.
Okay, Vanessa, you go on. Yeah. But she just seems to have that confidence and that resolve just kind of built into her, like the fabric of her very being as a person, but also as a player. And Claire, maybe this is like what we need the segue. When they walked into that stadium, I missed it because I was watching it at the bar, but they got clapped up by the French fans. And I think that doesn't lend itself anything, or that doesn't fuel their performance. They're already going to go out and do what they're going to do because of what's happening within that group. But to probably feel that in that moment where you're feeling so raw emotionally, that was probably really meaningful for them, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think just another recognition that they were sort of, done dirty by their coaching staff, right? Like that really, there is a lot of support for the players for sure. I wanted to go back to Vanessa real quick, if we could. She's just
we could spend the whole time talking about her. I would be fine with it.
That's all right.
No, I just like we are striving for robust grassroots development in Canada, and part of that is recognizing that not everybody develops at the same rate or the same pace. And there are some people who don't, because I found that when we were training, there weren't necessarily robust youth programs. So there was this hole after the under 19, under 20 program, and your NCAA career ends, and then it's kind of like, that's it. If you haven't cracked into the senior team at that point, it was really difficult to do that because there wasn't anything there.
And it remains a void. That's a big problem in our country for that age
group.
A
void, but there are more professional opportunities though, right? So there are more opportunities for you to continue to play in a fairly high level environment, even if you haven't cracked into the senior team. And that just didn't exist as much. And I think, like we've been talking about, just like what you have to do in order to make the national team in Canada. And I think there are so many people who get lost just because they develop a bit later and they don't peak until a little bit later. Like not everybody peaks at 19 or 20 and then cracks into the senior team. She didn't start playing till she was 16. Mm-hmm. So
I'm peaking at 46, Claire. So there's still
41
as a person.
Yeah.
As a person.
So I just think that part of that robust development system is having these nets to catch people at varying stages, and to not lose track of them. So I'm glad that she's done well, and that, that look on Fleming's face after she scored, the big smile on her face. I mean, it just looked like hope.
But like determined too, right? Like
determined, but also it felt like you could feel it. You could like, yeah, I think that they're going to win this game. Mm-hmm. And like, let's just talk a brief moment about added time. I really
referee, blow your whistle.
So first of all, I really appreciate that they're taking added time more seriously, right? And they're actually adding the correct amount of time for the amount of time that was lost during the match. Great. 13 minutes, no problem. That was accurate. But man, did that drag on. Like my sister actually said, she's like, I heard you whisper, this has to be it at one point. And I was like,
I heard Amy screaming in the background of a bar video. We were doing the same thing. That was insane. That's I can't believe that she was adding exact time. I think she forgot the time. There's no way. That was ridiculous.
Yeah, I said to Dee, I said, not only have they been harshly, awarded or deducted 6 points, like unprecedented, like that's so harsh, but we're also going to add bias when we're refereeing your games. Like this is the other thing.
Honestly, I don't know. I think she just. I have to say, just about the team, like the big performances by so many, like Kaylin's saves.
Oh yeah,
obviously the back line, how they played. Janine Becky and how hard she's worked to come back from the ACL and her massive impact, the defensive play, and then coming back for getting the ball up the line.
Mm-hmm.
It was hard
work.
Yeah, it was more like the halftime. What I think, like. They had to get through the first half, right? Like they survived the first half. I don't care at all about possession. I just mean like just where they were living on the field and just their opportunities and living on the ball. And then at halftime, obviously someone said something like, we have nothing to lose. And the way they came out and I was so proud. And also my nephews were like, you look like Jessie Fleming. So
It's the ultimate looky-likey. Are you listening, James Sharman? Because I did a Jessie Fleming, Reen Wilkinson mock-up as part of our looky-likey series, and he was like, meh. I'm like, no, it's there. And I don't know her very well. I know her like just a teeny tiny bit, but there's also similarities with the two of you, I think, in your characters and who you are and your heart and like what you're about.
Well, I was saying like people get flushed red cheeks when they run.
We do. We get red-faced anyway.
Yeah,
I the fame.
I should say Sean Whitaker sent this to us as sliding into our mail slot. Thank you, Sean, for that. Rian made a terrible face, listener.
So happy for you.
Mailbox, if you prefer, Ree.
Either one.
Yeah.
They're both
getting right in there.
We were sent some mail. Yeah.
Yes.
We were
MAIL. Anyway, and so somebody done like a breakdown of Janine busting a gut, like getting on her bike to come back to win like probably a 35 yard run, to come back into her own half to win that ball, to get it to Kadisha, and then it goes back out to the wing, and then that the second goal, Vanessa's goal, comes from that. But I think substitutions that were well timed, that were well executed, except for Chloe Lacasse. Why did we not see Chloe Lacasse yesterday? Do we know? I mean, it doesn't matter, right? Yeah. Is she carrying a knock, do we think? To me, that's the only explanation, or only possible explanation.
It could be. We don't know. But I do think it's interesting, you know, Gabby's gone from like not on the squad to like starting games. And it's just the whole, it's interesting. And Andy Spence is doing well with the staff to hold things together for the players, because they're, you know, changes, subs are a really great example, and who you put out starting lineup, like someone's got to do that. So the changes and the roles people are playing, and we talk about Janine coming back to defend and make it, but it happened over the entire field, and the role the players play that don't hit the field, and how they are right there, even their staff posting videos, like they are a connected group that's on a mission right now. And it's as I think Claire said too, it's been tough for a lot of, we're in no way comparing ourselves with, you know, former players are obviously like heartbroken right now. And it's been tough to know exactly what to say, and where in this moment we can just be proud. And I'm happy that I can be excited for this group of women who I think so highly of. So yeah, it was a beautiful moment.
I mean, like I lost my mind a little bit when Becky didn't start, because I thought she earned the start. I mean, she's like, my only conclusion is she's also carrying something, and she only
see, that's what we don't know. And her return from ACL is still up in the air. So
that's the only way to kind of rationalize it in my head, and that she's got 30 minutes in her, so that's when she comes in. But and she had a great Rio. She had a great 2016. I don't think Tokyo was her best showing, but she's been an enormous positive impact for this team when she's come on. I yelled after they scored. I mentioned that was all because of that tracking run. It all started from Becky tracking back, not giving up on the ball, and winning it back. She's had a huge positive because prior to her coming on, even in that first part of the second half, they weren't really pushing forward. Like the first half, it didn't look like they were trying to push forward necessarily. But when Becky came on, it just flipped a switch for them. And I thought that, I can't say enough about the positive impact that she had when she came on in both matches. That's where I landed.
So I don't want to I was going to say the S word. I don't want to crap all over the positivity, because I think it's so sorely needed. But I'm going to play devil's advocate for a second. So they need to win out. Like, every match is like a gold medal final. And the reactions yesterday were very much like it was. And you could argue that it's right up there with that Tokyo gold medal winning performance. But to go back to Vanessa again, and to say, like, you know, we've been crying, we've not slept properly, we're not eating, you know, like this has been really difficult for them to navigate. But does it risk, you know, where they run out of energy emotionally, physically, mentally, right? Like, it's going to take a toll. So say they're able to do it against Colombia, they go out of their group as a second place team. Do they run out of steam because this has been so draining on them?
I think I'm looking for my calendar, because is there not an extra day between the third matches and the quarterfinals? My brain is now, because I
don't think we can look past Colombia. I absolutely think there's a huge
absolutely not. Well, because you have to win. Like, there's no choice.
Yeah. Well, right? That's what I mean. And when your back's up against the wall, it's a very formidable power that you have to bring. But think of that emotional piece that they've already been dealing with, and now this incredible win. I hope, and I know that they've got Mariah, a former player in the NWSL, working with them in a sort of sports psych culture, and is obviously doing really good work with them. And I think it's all about bringing things down now, getting them some rest. It's not about training. It's not about anything other than, you know, fueling themselves. And that means nutrition, but also sleep. and just bringing down that emotion, because I do think that they're a stronger team than Colombia, but fumes get you so far. And it's time now to they've really just put in a performance here of the Olympics, really, and so far. And now it's how do we make sure that it can be continued? Because I think the next 3 points are not going to be easy.
No. I actually think the pace of the tournament favors them, right? I think there's some times in the World Cup where you sort of have almost kind of too much time between matches. I think the pace favors them, where there's enough time for them to rest and recover, as Rian's talking about, but not enough. But they can kind of maintain the focus that they had in that France game. Like there's just because they have to, because there's only 40 or 2 days between matches. So I think the pace favors them. I mean,
and the defensive performance that they put in, and Jade Rose particularly, like we've spoken really highly of Vanessa Gilles, but she even called out youngsters and like their composure and their leadership in Jade Rose and Simia Wujo. Those were two that she mentioned herself. So, going back and watching that France-Colombia game, I have not yet seen Colombia's win over New Zealand. But Maya Ramirez is like a runaway freight train. Like she is very, very difficult to stop. And despite how suffocating France was in how, like the way that they dominated them that first half when they were up 3-0, Colombia still managed to have 2 grade A chances that they produced completely against the run of play. So Canada is going to have to be on high alert and be able to thwart those chances and those game breakers that they have, especially as part of their front line.
Yeah, I think for the most part, Canada's not surprisingly, very well organized defensively. And the goals, like Katota's goal is a good goal. I mean, there's sometimes
she's something.
Like, sure, there's minor adjustments you can make, but sometimes strikers beat you and individually. And
as the defender.
Yeah, sometimes they just do. Sometimes Marta makes you look like a traffic cone.
I did think Kaylin could have got her arm out. Like, I don't know how to defend like a goal. I don't know what they do, but Katoto is phenomenal. We missed her in the World Cup with the ACL. That was such a good goal, but far be it me to critique a goalkeeper in Kaylin, one of the best ever. But I think she'll be disappointed in that, because I think it went through someone's legs. Vanessa's legs. So she made it. She got herself there, and it was almost like extension of her lower arm. Which I love that we can be that picky with our team. And I think she will look back and be like, I missed one there, which is interesting because it's against Katoto, against one of the top teams, and you're frustrated by the goal that was let in.
But then she rallied and she came up with that unbelievable save in stoppage time.
She was fantastic. I think Kaylin is the top keeper in the world. I don't mean that I mean that as a respect to who Kaylin is as a keeper, that I think she'll be like, I should have got that one.
Yeah.
I mean, I could have done it for sure, but
you would be the worst keeper. You would be terrible.
I mean, that one almost hit me.
It would be the worst. Amy, you and I talked about how it's like, you're tall, you must be good at heading, and I was like, nuh-uh. And I feel like that would be me as a goalkeeper too. You're tall, you should be good at this. Like, no, this isn't my thing.
Yeah, well, and another thing about Janine Beckie, which makes her an extremely versatile player, is she can also play keeper.
Yeah.
She does. She likes it. She used to do it at the end of training. I'd be like, stop it. This is not how I want you injured. Get out of here.
Yeah. I feel like, the coaches would say, no, stop doing that. We don't need anybody with a fractured face. It happens on my
Welsh team too. There's some top players. Love it. Like, get out. Stop it. Some like weird dream they have. Janine's actually done it. She's actually being called upon.
Yeah, I called that game in the Pan Am Games. It was crazy.
All right, I'm going to put a bow on this thing, guys. Claire, do you want to add something else?
No, I just don't take Colombia lightly, because they're not to be taken lightly. And that's it.
And I wanted to ask you both about, because Claire, when Dee and I were at Peaches and we were watching and we were talking about the permutations in the group and when it was still tied, right?
Yeah.
And Dee's sister Catherine came up with some good scenarios, and then we're like, no, that doesn't work. And we're like, we need Claire here. Yeah. So there are certain people that you look to for these types of things. So it's you, and also Rian with your experience, you would probably know. So the appeal that Canada Soccer has made, and the COC as well, on behalf of the team, to challenge that 6-point deduction is there a precedent for this? I was thinking about it, and correct me if I'm wrong, but if a decision was going to come back as to whether or not that appeal was successful, it would have to come down before match day 3, correct?
Has to, yeah.
Otherwise, why, right?
Yeah, and I'm sure it'll come down when one of us is actually physically doing an interview for news. All of the other stories so far is like, we're physically on news, and it goes by on the ticker, and they're like, hey, can you talk about this? And I'm like,
react to this.
Yeah. I think I don't know if there's precedent for it, and I don't know what the timeline is for appeals like this, but I mean, they don't have a lot of time. So I don't see any way they could announce it after the third match. That doesn't seem fair on the other teams.
Yeah, a team will make it through and then not potentially, so they have to do it before.
And changing the amount of points one team has affects the preparation of other teams for the third match. So I think they have to do it. If they're going to do it, it's got to be like in the next 24 hours.
I think so. I think it'll be really soon now. I mean, whatever we think of this, so FIFA's made their decision. It's a very hard one, but there was unfairness occurring. So they've made theirs. So it'll be really interesting in the next little while to follow FIFA continuing these tough sanctions on teams that step out of line. And hopefully now the game is better for it. Whatever happens, the sanctions have been at this point made. But we all know that FIFA has work to do in many areas. And I look forward to following them, continuing this precedent.
Me too.
That's right.
I look
and acting swiftly.
Yeah, acting swiftly in all areas of their jurisdiction is all I'll maybe say.
Yes, as it applies to sexual assault and racist chants and banning of hijabs, etc.
Lots of
exactly.
Yes. Thank you. Okay, so thank you for tuning in. This has been We've Got 0 Points Hallelujah podcast episode of the broadcast. I feel confident that I speak for Claire and Rian in saying that we just feel an immense sense of pride as former players, but I'm sure everybody does, and just an incredibly gutsy, brilliant performance by our women's national team. So proud. With a couple of swear words in there, usually, dear listener, but we can't. Shout out to the Welsh FA. Cheers for listening.
Which I imposed on myself, by the way. I would like to say that.
But I am happy to assume it because it means that we get your brilliant insight on this podcast. So cheers for listening. Look out for another broadcast dropping after match day 3. Check out wearefootyprime.com for hopefully a visual of said podcast where you can see Rian recoil in horror at my mail slot comment or anything else. And also Claire's disdain for most things that I say. Yeah, right.
It's not disdain, it's admiration.
That's true, Stan. Okay.
It's a little acerbic. That's
all right. Cheers, everybody. So proud.